TalkShoe and Restream. It is the day before Super Bowl Sunday, Saturday, February 10th, 2024. People who are in Las Vegas just completed their interviews on Radio Row. And I gotta ask, before we dive into this game, if you were a media member and you were given the choice between going to Radio Row or a draft-related event for a weekend, which would you choose and why? Just curious. And then we'll get into this game with Brock Purdy, Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl 58.
Personally, I would go to the draft event because I've been to different draft events here in Jacksonville, and the fans just seem to have a different electricity at draft. And if you cover it live, it just seems different. Almost like a playoff game in a lot of ways. So it's like a draft event versus.
No, because a lot of these NFL media channels, they don't want to go to the Senior Bowl. They don't want to go to the Combine. They don't want to go to the draft, but they will pay out the ass to go to the Super Bowl every year. And there's no fan reaction. It's just media people interviewing celebrities. That's all it is. So I don't think we need to give that.
If people want to rub shoulders with celebrities, right? I mean, more power to them. But if you're a football junkie, that would be what it means. You can watch the Super Bowl and do 15 hours of Super Bowl coverage, from your living room, from your office, from anywhere. But to be in the draft, in the trenches with the fans, not rubbing shoulders with celebrities, with the fans, and actually feeling what is happening with those fans and getting a sense of what's happening in the city while still getting the information you need to do it correctly with the reporting and such. I mean, that's an entirely different level. And so if you look up with celebrities going down on Cupid Row, maybe, the sex trafficking picks up when the Super Bowl comes out, so maybe you get a hooker or two. Whatever your desire, please, let the Super Bowl overcome.
Look, if you're a media company and you want to interview celebrities at the Super Bowl, that's your choice. We're not bashing you. We're just pointing out that it's all celebrity interviews. There's no fan interaction. And I can see how that's a deal breaker for Joey. I can see how that's less appealing to you.
Yeah, because, you were here for a few days during the Super Bowl during the
draft.
A couple years ago. You know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm interacting with people. I'm out and about. I'm filling the information. But I want to see what the reactions are. I want to feel what the people are feeling. It's great to feel it at the web every now and then, but I want to feel people. As bad as that sounds, it's, kind of a thing,
Yep.
Emotionally. Feel them up emotionally. Not physically. Emotionally. Just to feel. That's what I'm wanting on that.
All right, so on that note, we'll pivot into the game, Super Bowl 58. This is the third Super Bowl Joey and I have agreed on, and we've been doing Super Bowl predictions. I started in 2011. Joey started podcasting with me in 2014, 2015, the year the Patriots won Super Bowl 49. This is the 10th Super Bowl Joey and I have called on TalkShoe, first on Restream. And here's the thing. We've only agreed on 2 other Super Bowls in the last decade prior to this one. And the 2 Super Bowls we agreed on were the Patriots over the Rams and the Chiefs over the Buccaneers 3 years ago. Those were probably the 2 most boring Super Bowls this entire decade. And Joey and I agree on this Super Bowl. So buckle up. You might be getting a boring Super Bowl. We're not responsible for the product the NFL puts on CBS. Okay? It's like the 2 Super Bowls we agreed on were Super Bowl 53 and Super Bowl 55. They were both boring Super Bowls. The Patriots beat the Rams 13-3 when we had the Patriots beating the Rams, and the Buccaneers beat the Chiefs 31-9 when we both picked the Chiefs to repeat 3 years ago. So
here's the thing, Chris, because people need to buckle up because the NFL's already missed a golden opportunity when at the award show they did not announce a new award for Mark Hamlin's situation. So they missed a huge opportunity there, which means the NFL's not on the team. If the NFL's on the team, we might not get a great Super Bowl. But they're not off of their team. So that might be an over the things to come.
Yep. 49ers play the Chiefs. The 49ers are favored to win this game. It's a rematch of Super Bowl 54. We'll go through all the pick'em standing scenarios. Lisa's got the best record in the country by 11 games. Emmy Bantle and Sue Stoltenberg are tied for second. Jared Dublin is fourth. And Tyler Sullivan and I are tied for fifth in the country now, entering Super Bowl Sunday. Kerm is in third place. The big surprise on Draft Utopia's pick'em pool, third on the site, 13th in the country. The big surprise is Brian Bayless and Tanya Holmes are now tied for fourth. Jason's fifth because he switched his pick from the Ravens to the Lions and from the 49ers to the Lions at the last minute to try to win his Yahoo pool. But yeah, we've got Brian's taking the Chiefs. Tanya's taking the 49ers. And this is exactly what happened when the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl. I was tied with Oren for third place on the site. Heading into the game, I thought the Niners had the better depth chart, but I was hell-bent on winning the tiebreaker against Oren. So I picked the Chiefs to beat the 49ers in 54, and they did, because I was hell-bent on winning the tiebreaker. There was no logic in my thought process. That was an emotionally based decision. And a rare occasion where I make an emotionally based decision, because a lot of my predictions, Joey will tell you, involve logic. They don't involve emotion. So that was one of the rare instances where I made a prediction based off of emotion and it ended up working out. So, Jason.
This year has no logic involved, so I'm not sure how you're going to play the game because there was no logic this year. It was a ton of crapshoot. So, which means you need to go to Vegas before the season's over. You need to play facts because you're on a roll with the crapshoot. So you play some facts, get those things going, get some money out of it. When you're on this road, you need to take advantage of it.
Exactly. I told Andrew last year when we were in Vegas that the Chiefs were going to beat the Bengals 23-20. And Andrew was thinking about placing some money on the game, but he didn't. And that ended up being the exact final score, 23-20. And my brother could have gotten some money out of that. Could have split some money on that, but he didn't go through with it. Jason's sixth on the site, but he's still 17th. Wes is 7th, 19th in the country. Colleen Wolf of NFL Network is 20th. Jesse Lucas is 21st. Tracy is 9th. Oren is a game ahead of Joey, but he's 29th in the country. And Joey's improved his positioning from 33rd a year ago to 30th, despite being 162 and 122. He can move into a tie with Oren at 163 and 122 on the year if the team he picks to win the Super Bowl wins it. And Joey and I already have the same team winning. But, the 49ers, let's talk about the 49ers. They do have Brock.
Get like a 3-week stretch where I think I was probably 30 days under 500 on that 3-week stretch. And that was just a standing 3-4-week stretch for me.
It's amazing. Heading into December, Tanya Holmes was in the bottom 3 on the year. She could move into a third-place tie. If the 49ers win the Super Bowl, she gets third place on the year because Kern picked the Chiefs to win. So did Brian Bayless, and she's only a game back of Kern. And she was behind Joey at the end of November.
And that's awesome because it's like, and kind of ironic because she and I went on completely different trajectories. I went on a 3 or 4 week stretch where I just bottomed out, and she went on a 3 or 4 week stretch where she blew the roof off. And, that just goes to show you, not only in the NFL, but with these pickings, what we do, hey, 3 or 4 weeks, I mean, the entire season.
Yeah. The first year I won my very first pick'em title on Draft Utopia, it was 2016, 2017. I was in last place heading into November. I ended up winning it by a game, but Tanya Holmes was last place heading into December. She ended up rallying back, and if the Falcons had held on to the 28-3 lead in 51, Tanya and I would have tied for first that year, and she would have won the tiebreaker. So it's like, anything can happen. Until you're mathematically eliminated from winning, anything can happen. So don't give up on your season if your predictions are doing poorly. That's the moral of the story. There are people that chose to skip weeks in the playoffs in the media. I'm not naming names. We got to get to the Niners. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, he's in the Super Bowl, and he does have a great offensive line. You have the league's best left tackle in Trent Williams. You have Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Burford, and John Feliciano rotating at right guard, and Colton McKivitz at right tackle. Those are the guys on the unit. You do have some depth. Nick Zakelj, John Feliciano, Matt Pryor, Jalen Moore. You do have some depth on this line. But at the same time, Trent Williams isn't really 100%. I'm just not sure where the 49ers are mentally, Joey, because they complained about the UNLV practice. They complained that the Chiefs are in the Raiders practice facility, and they're outside at the UNLV saying, oh, this turf is bad. Players can get injured on this turf. Nobody got injured on the turf. I was at the UNLV practice facility last year at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Nobody got injured on the damn turf. Okay? Nobody got injured during the practices, San Francisco, and none of the college players complained about the opportunity to play for the Falcons and Patriots.
Well, turf is dangerous as it is.
I think they practiced on grass, not turf.
You can see where their argument comes from, but at the same time, this turf doesn't have a history of it. So if there's no history of it, that kind of puts their complaints in doubt.
Yeah, and Andy Reid's like, it doesn't matter what the weather conditions are. It was raining one day before the Super Bowl out in Arizona last year. We practiced outdoors in the rain. And Andy Reid's just trying to get inside their head before the Super Bowl. And they asked the Chiefs if they'd share the facility, and they said no. But, the 49ers, they're complaining about that. There's a fire alarm that went off in their hotel. So are the 49ers going to be able to channel their anger and come out with the right amount of intensity and win this thing? Or are they just mentally, okay, they were the best team in the NFC, but that's their peak, and they know that's their peak. That's going to be the big question. You do have Deebo Samuel, you have Ayuk, you have DeJuan Jennings, Ronnie Bell, Ray McLeod, Chris Conley, a former Chief after Danny Gray got placed on season-ending IR. Kittle's the only receiver that exceeded 1,000 rushing yards, and he really didn't practice last week leading up to the Super Bowl. He was limited practice on Thursday due to a toe injury, but he should play. McCaffrey is going to play. Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Kyle Juszczyk at fullback. You have a lot of depth on offense for the 49ers, and you are going to have to run the ball. You're going to have to keep Patrick Mahomes off the field if you want to win. Why'd the Ravens lose to the Chiefs? They didn't run the ball. They had the personnel to run the ball, but they called a ton of passing plays. I don't know why, but the Chiefs...
Yeah, even the Chiefs were confused about that. It's like I was listening to some interviews with coaches, players, and so on, and they were like, we don't know why they didn't run it because we were expecting them to run it and give us more of a challenge, and they didn't. So even the Chiefs were like, what the heck's going on here? Yeah, they didn't understand it either.
Yeah. And the 49ers, they have Nick Bosa and Chase Young as their starters. Drake Jackson got placed on IR in week 10, and Clelin Ferrell got placed on IR before the divisional round. So the other two defensive ends ahead of Chase Young on the depth chart are injured. And, that's going to be the key. If Chase Young takes plays off, or Bosa and Young wear down and you don't have depth, that's going to be problematic for the 49ers because they do have one of the better defensive lines in the league. You have Armstead, you have Hargrave, two guys that lost Super Bowls to the Chiefs, 54 and 57. They're coming together. Javon Kinlaw's in a contract year. This is his final game. Kevin Givens, another backup on this defensive line. So you have bodies, you have depth. You have to get the job done at some point. Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner are the linebackers in the 4-2-5 defense when the 49ers play 43 base. Oren Burks comes in the Sam. And then you have D. Winters as a backup middle linebacker. You have Jalen Graham as a backup outside linebacker in a 43 to Oren Burks. But Oren Burks is the backup in the 4-2-5 defense, which is why we really haven't seen much of Jalen Graham. You have Charvarius Ward at corner. Ambry Thomas has taken the number 2 cornerback job. What's interesting is at the beginning of the year, Isaiah Oliver was expected to win the number 2 cornerback job. He failed to beat out Lenore for that job in camp, so he got bumped down to nickel. And then Isaiah Oliver did so bad he got benched. Ambry Thomas came in at nickel midseason, and he did so well that he took the number 2 cornerback job from Lenore. So do the 49ers finally have that stability with the number 2 corner? If they do, maybe they could win this thing. But if they don't have that stability, we could be looking at another high-scoring Super Bowl like 54, where this thing goes back and forth. And I honestly could see that going that direction. And then Darrell Luter Jr. is the 5th-round pick out of South Alabama as the number 5 corner. Jair Brown starting in relief of Hufanga at strong safety. Gibson's returning at free safety. I'm guessing Hufanga and Brown will be starting next year. And then you have Jake Moody at kicker and Mitch Wishnowsky at punter. So, Ray McLeod is the return specialist for San Francisco. So that's the 49ers depth chart. And do the 49ers have more stars than the Chiefs? Yes. Have they been playing better heading into the Super Bowl? No. And I'm going to break that down because even though the Chiefs have less stars on their depth chart than the 49ers, they have been playing better as of late. Kansas City has a top 5 quarterback in Mahomes. Even though Joe Thuney's out at left guard, the only player on this offensive line that gave up a sack is Nick Allegretti. He gave up a sack to Matt Abuke in the AFC title game. Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor, as god-awful as they were in the regular season, have been amazing in these playoffs, Joey. I mean, Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor haven't given up a sack in 3 playoff games. That's probably the biggest reason the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl once again. Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith have been playing like stars. Smith 7th among guards in Pro Football Focus. Humphrey 4th among centers after being 1st among centers a year ago when the Chiefs won Super Bowl 57. So, that offensive line is a big reason why the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. That and the defense. I will go through the key players on offense, but the Chiefs defense, 13.7 points allowed. That's the average points allowed in 3 playoff wins, 13.7. And that is the 4th fewest points allowed of any defense all time. The 2013-2014 Seattle Seahawks allowed 13.3 points per game. The 2002, 2003 Buccaneers allowed 12.3 points per game. And the Baltimore Ravens 01, 2000, 2001 defense only allowed 5.6 points per game, some godly number that's just not going to be matched in our lifetimes. So only the Buccaneers, Ravens, and Seahawks Super Bowl defenses have done better than the Chiefs historically. And that's even with all the injuries being taken into account here. So whether you like the Chiefs or not, they're posting the blueprint of a championship team with Mahomes, with how good the offensive line's playing, with how stout the defense has been through 3 AFC weeks, 3 AFC games where it's felt like a war of attrition. The Chiefs have done their part to get back to the Super Bowl. And we'll mention some of the other players in a bit on this Chiefs offense, but I just want to say, the Chiefs, they've shown those components of a championship caliber team, Joey. I mean, you have Rashee Rice, Sky Moore's coming back, so is Valdez-Scantling. So they have those components of a championship team. They have those components. And
here's the thing. There is a reason that there were teams saying, we don't want to play the 49ers. There were teams saying, we don't want to play the Browns. There were teams saying, we don't want to play earlier in the year before they fell apart, the Eagles. And that's their defense. They didn't want to play the defense. And that's the thing we're talking about right now with the Chiefs. The Chiefs, people were saying now, as the playoffs went on, they hoped that the Bills knocked off the Chiefs because that defense was starting to rev. Those venues were starting to rev on the defense. And once those defensive venues started to rev up, now we're looking at a Chiefs team where Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to carry the load because that defense has revved itself up. And now the 49ers are saying, well, we really don't want to play the Chiefs because that defense has revved up.
yeah. And you have Sky Moore coming back from his injury. Justin Watson's been the most consistent big play threat in this offense outside of Rashee Rice. But now you're going to have Valdez-Scantling's probably going to play in the slot, but he'll rotate with Watson. And Rice and Moore should be the every down guys. And then you're going to have Kels, another every down guy. But you're just going to have a lot of looks, a lot of formations. Andy Reid's going to do his part and mix things up. You'll also have Justin Ross and McCole Hardman, who are backups number 5, number 6 on this depth chart, who can come in situationally like Justin Watson's done the last 2 years. You also have Richie James. So this is the first game all year where the Chiefs have all 8 receivers at full health. Rice, Moore, Watson, Valdez-Scantling, Tony, Justin Ross, Hardman, and Richie James. All 8 receivers are fully healthy for the first time since, I don't know, the beginning of the year maybe, before Rashee Rice emerged as the number 1 target. So, they're going to have all their weapons at healthy. You've got Kelsey coming off a signature game in the AFC title game. You have Noah Gray. Blake Bell is still on this team. You have Pacheco. McKinnon could be back this week. He's questionable, but he could be back. He was a limited practice. And you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Right now, Michael Perrine's the 3rd string running back. That's if McKinnon's out. But if McKinnon plays, Perrine would be ruled inactive, I'm guessing. And just the Chiefs right now, if all 3 of those running backs are healthy, it is going to be harder to stop the run. Now, everybody's saying, oh, Charles Omenihu's out for the year. That's a huge loss. Not really. It's a big loss, but it's not a massive loss. Mike Donna has done well, complimenting Karlaftis. Karlaftis and Chris Jones, those are the 2 stars. Those are the glue to this defensive line. But Mike Donna's had his moments this year at 43 right end, filling in for Frank Clark. And you have Felix Anudike-Uzomah, your 2023 first-round pick out of Kansas State, who has been learning the playbook, being very situational as a pass rusher this year, but he would be the situational pass rusher in relief of Charles Omenihu. I'm pretty certain that's a role he can handle. Now, if you asked him to be the starting defensive end, I could understand the hesitation. But situational pass rusher, I think this is a role he can handle. I mean, is Chris Jones is going to have Tershawn Wharton starting next to him, and with Derek Nottie out, and you're going to have Neil Farrell Jr. and Isaiah Buggs rotating. Buggs began his season on the Lions, but the Lions released him. I don't know why. If Isaiah Buggs can come in and make a few signature tackles, he has a golden opportunity to make Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell look like idiots for releasing him, which is not something I thought I'd be saying 2 weeks after the NFC title game. But here we are. You look at Willie Gay Jr., Nick Bolton, Leo Chenal, Drew Tranquill. Heck, even Cam Jones, the undrafted linebacker out of Indiana, did well enough to make the Chiefs' second team as a backup and showed some promise in Week 18. So the linebackers for Kansas City have been playing well. And the cornerbacks, McDuffie and Snead, have been making it very difficult, if not impossible, to throw on the opposing defense. And then you're going to have Jalen Watson at nickel. You've got Joshua Williams, who can also play nickel. And, Justin Reed at strong safety. Brian Cook took over for Juan Thornhill. Then he got injured. Then Mike Edwards came in. Mike Edwards got injured in the playoffs. And even though I'm not a big fan of Deion Bush had an interception against Lamar Jackson 2 weeks ago, so you can't really disrespect Deion Bush either. And you also have Chamari Connor. So even though the Chiefs may not have that superstar player outside of Chris Jones, they have enough bodies to make up for it, Joey. So in the grand scheme of things, 13.7 points a game. Only the Ravens 5.8, Buccaneers 12.3, and Seahawks 13.3 have allowed fewer points than the Chiefs. This defense has been playing really well, out of its mind, and that's a big reason why I think the Chiefs should find a way to win this game. But, it just feels like a rematch. Even the same referee, Bill Vinovich, who called Super Bowl 54, is calling this game. The 49ers are 6-10 all-time in games officiated by Bill Vinovich. The Chiefs are 11-3 in games officiated by Bill Vinovich, dating back to 2013 when Andy Reid took over the team. So that is a big stat. I'm not going to look up the all-time stat for the Chiefs in games officiated by Bill Vinovich dating back to 2002 because I don't think it's a relevant number. The thing you got to look at is what have the Chiefs and 49ers done under Vinovich with the current regimes, the current coaching staffs. And the 49ers are only favored by 1.5. 76% of the public's betting on Kansas City, and the over-under is 47.5. I took the over. I picked the Chiefs to beat the 49ers in overtime 5 years ago when they won Super Bowl 54, 30-24. I have this game going to double overtime, 31-28. Why? Well, the head of CBS Sports said, be prepared. This is going to be the first Super Bowl in NFL history to go to double overtime. I'm not sure if he's trolling Adam Schefter or if he actually believes the game is scripted for it to go to double overtime, because that is a hell of a prediction by the head of CBS Sports. So I do have this Super Bowl going to double overtime since the head of CBS Sports believes it. I believe it too. I'm a believer now, Joey. So I'm going to go 31-28 Chiefs. And 8 of our 11 staff members took the underdog. Only Tanya, Oren, and Lisa picked the Niners. Lisa had the Niners at the beginning of the playoffs. Oren had the Niners in his preseason prediction. And Tanya had Oren had the Niners and the Bills in his preseason prediction. And Tanya had Tanya's taking the 49ers to win the tiebreaker over Brian, just like me, off emotion. That's pretty much the thought process there. But yeah, everybody else is taking the Chiefs, Joey. So yeah, that should say a lot because it's pretty rare to see 8 out of 11 people pick the underdog in a Super Bowl. This is not something I'm used to seeing personally. But we broke down all the matchups. Maybe we haven't broke down what Debo's going to do against McDuffie, what these safeties are going to do against Kittle. I think if the 49ers win, it's going to be McCaffrey and Kittle. Because Kittle basically said, when I come back to my next Super Bowl, I'm going to play with a vengeance after losing Super Bowl 54. If you rewatch the NFL Films clip of Super Bowl 54, the 30-minute clip, because they re-air all the Super Bowls on NFL Network right after the Senior Bowl, from 1 to 50, the last year's Super Bowl. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting Super Bowl, Joey, but it could also be a very boring Super Bowl. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I agree with you on a lot of that on what you said. But I think I'm taking this game for a different reason. Oh, look at that. I'm taking this game for a different reason. The way I did, and yes, I agree with defense. I agree with how you but it's like I texted you earlier.
Tempo. You talked about the tempo.
It's the tempo. But do I think that the 49ers can keep up with the team for at least a time? Yes. But the 49ers have to control up front, use McCaffrey, use Purdy, with those short to medium games, and then take their shots. Because if the Chiefs get a stop, if the 49ers get the ball first, Chiefs get a stop, they get it back. If they go up 2 scores, that's going to be a problem. Because the Chiefs are doing it different this year. And I think early in the year, or not in the year, but last year, we were saying last year was kind of their last draw. But we didn't know how they were going to be able to do it. What they did was, before they were going, they had a lot of veterans.
I didn't think they could replace Orlando Brown Jr. Yeah, I didn't think that
they're hitting fast and letting that defense do its thing, and they're using that young athleticism all the way around to get the turnover. Now you're going to have to get the 49ers playing your kick, which is an up-tempo kick. But if the 49ers can keep it slow, they can take that speed, they can take that enthusiasm out of it and make the team use nothing but health and Mahomes on offense with Pacheco, who has been called an X factor in the Super Bowl, and make those 3 beat you, and you're taking everything else out of the game. Because if they're running the ball, that pass rush makes no difference for the Chiefs if they're running the ball successfully. Those athletic defensive backs mean nothing if they aren't throwing the ball 10, 15 yards downfield. So if the 49ers control the tempo early, you're putting the Chiefs at a disadvantage. But if the Chiefs come out firing, if the Chiefs get going, I don't think the 49ers can keep up.
I don't either. That's the thing.
Have to control it, or it's over.
Look, when the Chiefs signed Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor after letting go of Andrew Wiley and Orlando Brown Jr., I didn't think much of the signings at first. But here's the thing with Donovan Smith. 0 sacks allowed in the preseason, 0 sacks allowed in the postseason. So he's had his stretches. He's had his runs where he's looked effective. May have had an awful regular season. I'm not going to argue that. His regular season, the regular season for the Chiefs offensive tackles was very underwhelming to the point where hardly anybody in the country was picking the Chiefs to repeat at the start of the playoffs. Now they've played like a championship offensive line for 3 games in a row, and they got 1 more game. And the Bills had good edge rushers. You can argue the Ravens and Dolphins edge rushers. Dolphins had injuries at edge. You can argue the Ravens edge rushers need to be upgraded. Those arguments have merit. But 49ers are probably the best defensive line they're going to face outside of the Bills. And they were able to keep the Bills from sacking Mahomes.
I'm putting my coach's hat on for this game because I'm looking at the whole of what is being done strategically. You know, I'm looking more at the coaches than I am the players at this point. Because I'm sitting here because the tempo, you have to get the tempo up and down, but I'm also looking, and everybody knows I've been critical of Kyle Shanahan, strongly so, because of what he did last year and how he basically just said, I give up. Now, this year, he's done the exact opposite. He's saying, I ain't quitting. I'm going to use my offensive genius, and I'm going to control every little aspect. He has, and one thing I really love, and something I was surprised at because I was pretty positive Clint Kubiak was going to get the Browns OC position. I love Clint Kubiak, the passing game coordinator for the 49ers. I love what he's done with Brock Purdy. I love how he has incorporated, because everybody knew McCaffrey was a great receiver, but he really hadn't shown it to the peak of his ability since he came to the 49ers last year. Clint Kubiak has done a miraculous job of getting him involved in the passing game. So I am going to say, because when I say control the tempo, I don't just mean through the running game. I expect Clint Kubiak to come out and have his say. Because if you see those McCaffrey routes to where he's getting those chunks, he's getting out in space, he's doing all these things like he did in the NFC Championship, like he's done throughout the playoffs, that's a Clint Kubiak staple. That is stuff that Kubiak has put in with the increased influence he's had. So I'm looking for that as well. I'm looking for the 49ers to get out of space because, remember, Trent Williams, we call him Silverback because of the strength and his ability there. But he is an agile man. He can get out. If we can see them control all those aspects, that's where the 49ers are going to be successful.
Yeah,
and
because they have the talent. They've got the players to outplay the Chiefs, but the execution for the 49ers in these playoffs has been questionable at best. They trailed both the Packers and Lions at halftime, but have rallied back in the second half, which is not something you've seen under previous teams coached by Kyle Shanahan. Whereas the Chiefs have just been the more consistent and more complete team. 49ers might have better players in their depth chart, and that might be why Vegas favors them this time around compared to 54. I get that. But at the same time, the Chiefs have been the more consistent and more complete team. That's why I'm picking them to win. This is a tough game to pick because I think you could make the argument that the Niners have the better depth chart, more star players. There was a time where Trent Silverback Williams was considered, well, he wasn't really. In the 2010 NFL draft, most mock drafts had Russell Okung ahead of Trent Williams for the most of the process. I mean, Williams was in the top 10, don't get me wrong. And then Sam Bradford got injured, so did Gresham. And then Trent Williams sort of became an afterthought until the Combine, and then he dominated the Combine, and then he jumped ahead of Russell Okung. And many thought it was a reach at the time, but Trent Silverback Williams has had an excellent NFL career. So the people that thought Silverback was a reach over Okung look like idiots now because Trent's still playing, and this is his second opportunity to win a championship. And in Okung's defense, he does have a Super Bowl ring. In Russell Okung's defense, he did win a Super Bowl in Seattle against the Broncos. So this is not a...
And let's be honest, Okung was a Pro Bowl player. He was a really good player. And we're not going to, crap down on an excellent player's career. But with Trent Williams, I've always called him Silverback as a term of endearment. And he has just had a career. Remember, we talk about all these offensive linemen that have done so many great things. And we talk about, no matter whether you're a Browns fan or not, everybody talks about Joe Thomas as one of the greatest ever. I think at this point, Trent Williams Williams, because this is something I don't say lightly about anybody, because I don't give a crap about longevity stats in a lot of areas. And I've played several sports and know that longevity is overrated. But on the offensive line, I was a left tackle. I will tell you, if you can play more than 10 or 11 years at left tackle, I give you credit. If you can play to the age I'm beaten up, and when I say I'm beaten up, physically, I can give you a who's who.
Looking back on it, both Okung and Silverback Williams are both.
For as long as he has, amazing.
Yes. Both guys are Pro Bowl tackles. Both Williams and Okung are Pro Bowl tackles. The thing that separates Williams from Okung is Williams might be a Hall of Fame left tackle. That's really the only thing that separates the two, in my opinion. And it's a big separator.
And that's why I say longevity with the offensive line, and I give no credit to longevity for basketball and other places because it's not as physical. When you're in the trenches, this is where Trent Williams stands out above all else. When you're in the trenches, I have never seen a player, 25 years, whatever keeps going on, maybe Matthew.
It's 13 years. It's 13, but it does feel like 25 years with how long he's played. It's 13 years.
It does. And then to be able to hold up at left tackle against some of the greatest athletes, some of the strongest people in the history of the game. Let's not just talk about the athletes that are there now, the Watts, the Garrett, the Bosa's, but the guys that came before. I mean, he has spanned 2 generations, and his body has not given out on. My body started giving out after 7 years. He's going on close to 21 now.
He entered the league in 2010. Okay, he entered the league in the fall of 2010. It's now the winter of 2014. That's almost 14 years. That's almost 14 years, and I feel like
it seems like he's close to 20. He has just been. It seems like he's been there forever, and he's there to high level, and he doesn't seem like he's slowing down. I think he can legitimately play 20 years easy, maybe 25. 14 years. The average offensive lineman starts breaking down 5 to 7 years in. He's at 13. If you're good, he can play 10 at a starting level.
Trent Williams is 35.
For 13 years.
Yeah, Trent Williams is 35. He's been in the league for 13 years.
Yeah, so...
And 49ers Web Zone reporting that... 49ers Web Zone's reporting that Trent Williams plans to play at least a couple of more years. That's a minimum of 2 years, probably a maximum of 5.
Here's the thing, Chris. If you want to add a degree of difficulty, this man had a brain tumor. Add a degree of difficulty to all of that. The man's life was at risk because of a misdiagnosis by a Washington Commanders, then Redskins doctor. Okay? That should tell you right there the toughness of this guy, and it should also tell you something about his character, because usually if you sue an NFL team for any reason, whether it's malpractice such as this case or any other reason, you're blackballed, period. It speaks to his character that the NFL did not blackball him for suing Washington. I'm just going to call them the football team in this instance because they have gone through 3 name changes since then. That the fact that they just said, hey, our bad dude, go on with your career, that also goes to his character.
Well,
A person and a league spokesman.
Here's the thing with Washington. They saw the growth of his deferred scarmoma protuberans, a type of cancer, DFSP. There was a growth of DFSP in Trent Williams in 2013 with the Redskins medical staff saying it wasn't serious at the time. And then he had a surgical procedure done 6 years later to remove the growth from his head. So the Redskins medical staff lied to him. So he had every right to want out of that situation. Okay? Peyton Manning, he retired a Bronco. I've got a feeling Williams is going to retire a 49er, and that's largely due to the medical staff and the incompetence of Dan Snyder. Most players want to retire for the team that drafted them. I don't think that's going to be the case with Williams. And I don't blame Williams for that, to be completely honest.
And let's be honest. The 49ers, the York family took over from their uncle, and their uncle is considered one of the best owners in the NFL. The Yorks are some of the best owners in the NFL. They have one of the best ownership groups. That family has owned the 49ers for 30 years, and everybody has been spoken about how such great human beings they are. So who wouldn't want to retire? And especially somebody who's been through so many hardships like Williams. And I think out of everybody, because there was somebody who said Brock Purdy's journey is on track with Tom Brady's journey. And everybody was going to feel so good for Brock Purdy for going on that trajectory. And I'm saying, no, I feel great for Trent Williams because he has been through so much, and he is on a trajectory. If he doesn't play a game after this one, he may be the best left tackle of all time, and he has gone through so much more than probably any offensive tackle or offensive player in the last 40 years to get to this level. So I feel good for him. And I do hope, personally, I hope he wins. I hope the 49ers win personally. I just don't think that from a strategic standpoint, the 49ers are going to win, but it is possible. And I hope they do, but I don't think they will.
I mean, I think here's the thing with the Chiefs. They've averaged a minimum of 31 points, 31, 34, 35, and 38 and 41 points in their 5 games against the 5 games at Allegiant Stadium. Or it was 31, 34, 35, and 41 or something. But they played 4 games at Allegiant Stadium, and they've averaged 31 points or more in each of those games. The Chiefs have. So I do think this is going to be a track meet. And I think it's going to be, I do have this game going to double overtime, but I think it's going to be 21-21 after the 4th quarter. I think both teams are going to get a touchdown in overtime. The over's going to hit, and then it's going to go to double overtime, and the Chiefs are going to win in double overtime. That's kind of how I see it playing out.
Because the 49ers are going to have to score their points in the first half, because I saw a stat somewhere that said the Chiefs have only averaged 6 points against in the second half over the last 6-7 weeks. So this is saying right now, you score early and you score often because you're probably not going to score in the second half.
Here's the thing, Joey. 67% of the public is betting the over. The over-under is 47.5. So let's say it's 21-21 after 4 quarters of play. If Vegas wants the under to hit, they can have the under hit. If Vegas wants the over to hit, the over's going to hit and they'll lose money. But I just feel like, regardless of how Vegas perceives this game, I just feel like the Chiefs are going to win this game, and it is going to be a war of attrition. I think this will surpass the Patriots-Falcons as the longest Super Bowl in NFL history. I think this is going to go to double overtime.
It has potential to be. It has potential to be because I don't think because it's all going to come down to the 49ers. Okay, this game is about the 49ers. Okay, we know what the Chiefs are going to do, and they're going to do it efficiently. Can the 49ers exert their will, keep the tempo, and execute properly? Because if the 49ers do all that, then yes, not only do they stand a good chance to win, they stand a good chance of doing it the way you said, which is double overtime. They stand a chance of keeping up with the Chiefs. But they have to be on point and do everything right. They can do it, but at the same time, they have to be on point. Now, the offensive line has got to control the game. If the offensive line controls the game and takes out the pressure up front, the 49ers can control the tempo and exert their will with McCaffrey. And that's where the difference is going to be. Can McCaffrey be that X factor that the 49ers need him to be? And all starts up front and controlling the tempo of the game. And the 49ers have to control the game.
Yeah, exactly. The time of possession is going to be huge in this contest. You could argue that the team that has the time of possession probably wins the Super Bowl. Because
it's like I'm going to look at a couple teams over the last few years. The Titans control the game. They won all of their games over the last couple years. They still have time of possession. The Browns this year control the game. Time of possession win. Okay? The Rams were always up in time of possession. Win the time of possession, win the game. That has been the name of the game over the last 3 or 4 years. You got to do it. So I agree with you 100%. Give you a few examples there. But the time of possession is going to be crucial, and I believe the 49ers have been up this year time of possession.
Yes, the 49ers have had time of possession for 529 minutes and 54 seconds. The Chiefs' time of possession is 518 minutes, 3 seconds. But I think that's just for the regular season. Yeah, that's just for the regular season.
Yeah. Oh, and you know who didn't win time of possession that should have won time of possession and ended up losing? Lamar Jackson. Hey, Ravens. Nice to see you. Should have won that game. You made bad decisions passing. And guess what? It was bad coaching, bad game plan, bad decisions on the MVP. And guess what? Chiefs took advantage of every single one of them. Won the time of possession, won the game outright, no outliers, no issues. Chiefs won because they won it. The 49ers have to basically do to the Chiefs what the Chiefs did to the Ravens.
Pretty much. I mean,
it's like, you see, that's what I come to off with some of my rants.
Yeah, okay, there's only one team in the bottom 5 of time of possession made the playoffs, and it was the Buccaneers. The Colts, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Vikings, and Jets were bottom 5 in time of possession. Buccaneers made the playoffs despite being bottom 5 in time of possession. I just think that's a very interesting statistic because I don't think you would have guessed that the Buccaneers were in the bottom 5 in time of possession on the year if I hadn't mentioned that.
I knew they needed an upgraded running back, but I didn't know they were that bad. And I saw a few of their games because sometimes the local TV station has Buccaneers games on instead of Jags games, which I don't understand.
They're both in the state of Florida. They're both in the state of Florida. That's.
Yeah, I mean, the local. I'm talking the local Jacksonville station had Buccaneers games on the Jags.
It's the state of Florida.
You know.
And it's probably because the Jaguars are playing on Monday night or Sunday. If the Jaguars are playing on Disney Plus or they're playing on Monday Night Football or Thursday night on Amazon Prime, they're probably going to air a Buccaneers game that week or a Dolphins game. That's just...
Well, yeah, but they were airing them during the Jags game. So it was weird, but and here's the thing: the Bucs have to get that number better, and they do have to get a better running game because I have heard a lot of rumors about Allen being, because we've been talking about the odd man out. I've been hearing the receivers are the odd man out. We're talking about the big guys on the edges being the odd man out. So they're going to have to get that time of possession closer to the 49ers and Browns and a little bit away from...
In Tampa Bay's defense, they were the final team to get 500 minutes in terms of time of possession. The other, there were 3 teams that finished with below 500 minutes in time of possession. Buccaneers had 500 minutes and 11 seconds. The Cardinals, Vikings, and Jets all had time of possessions under 500 minutes. With the Jets, that's largely due to Aaron Rodgers. Cardinals, due to the QB turnover, and the Vikings, same thing could be said. All 3 of those teams had a ton of QB turnover.
So I will look at it a different way. With the Cardinals, it was just a lack of talent. So
I wouldn't say the Vikings lacked talent. There were different moments in the year where Justin Jefferson was injured. Hawkinson tore his ACL once Jefferson came back.
No, I mean the Cardinals. I said the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Cardinals were like that. But, yeah.
But they still finished ahead of the Vikings and Jets in time of possession, despite the lack of talent.
Time of possession is 100%. It is necessary. You have to have the time of possession because that's ultimately what has determined the game the last couple of years, and ultimately that's what's going to determine this game. And it could come down to the 49ers and whether they can do it.
All right, here's a different stat. This is from TeamRankings.com. Only 14 NFL teams had a time of possession of above 30 minutes. The Eagles, the Rams, the Bengals, the Jaguars, and Chiefs tied for 30-37 on the year, 30 minutes, 37 seconds. The Ravens, the Panthers were 8th in time of possession last year, despite being the worst team in the league. The Panthers were 8th in time of possession. The Panthers tied the 49ers for time of possession on the season.
The Panthers are, that is a shocking stat because, hey, if you're top 10 time of possession, I expect you to be at least close to the playoffs. I mean, what the hell just happened to the Panthers? I don't understand that. That goes back to my point of this year has not been logical. How the hell? That is a mind-blowing stat.
Saints were 5th in time of possession, but they missed the playoffs. The Bears were 3rd in time of possession. The Bears led NFC teams in time of possession this year. So, yeah.
I would not have seen that either.
Yeah, the Lions and 49ers were the only 2 teams. So there were 5 NFC teams in the top 10 in time of possession. The Bears, Cowboys, Saints, Lions, 49ers, Panthers. 6 NFC teams in the top 10 in time of possession. And only 3 of those 6 teams made the playoffs with the Cowboys, Lions, and 49ers.
I can see the 3 teams that made the playoffs and why. If there's teams that did make the playoffs, it's like, where the hell did they come from in that? Because, I mean, that's just insane.
Yeah, I would not have suspected the Panthers. Now, the team that had the worst time of possession, Seahawks had the ball for 26 minutes and 38 seconds. That is the lowest time of possession per team. That's the lowest time of possession average. Patriots, 28 minutes, 2 seconds. Raiders, 28 minutes, 34 seconds. Texans only had the ball for 28 minutes and 53 seconds, and they still made the playoffs. with a bottom 5 time of possession on the year. That is incredible when you look at what DeMeco Ryans has done.
Yeah, that is.
I mean, they were bottom 4 in time of possession.
I asked you which team was the lowest time of possession that made the playoffs. I think you answered that. Who was the second lowest time of possession that made the playoffs?
The Steelers, 29 minutes, 28 seconds. Buccaneers were third, 29 minutes, 5 seconds. And yeah, and then the Packers and Dolphins also made the playoffs. So 5 teams that had the ball for under 30 minutes made the playoffs out of the 14. So 14 of the 30.
The Dolphins we can understand because they passed the shit out of the ball. So at least the Dolphins were, at least you can understand that. But the others, yeah, that's insane.
Well, the Steelers have a really good defense. The Packers had an easy strength of schedule. The Texans also had an easy strength of schedule, but they also had an incredible year by DeMeco Ryans and their 2 rookie first-round picks. And it looks like it was well worth it. Jets did the same thing last year.
I think C.J. Stroud got like 5 votes for the MVP.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Stroud, historic season for him, so kudos to C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
MVP caliber player at quarterback does tend to lose any negativity you may have around you. So kudos to him.
Yep. So I'm taking the Chiefs 31-28. I'm just curious, Joey, what is your score for this game?
I do believe that this game is going to involve more around coaching and their ability to put players in a position to really go well with the other team. So, which coach can outmaneuver the other coach? And I hold both coaches in high regard. So I'm going to go 31-28.
We have the same score. That's insane. We have the exact same score. I have the Chiefs winning 31-28 as well. The only difference is I have the game going to double overtime. That's really the only difference in our thought process. I think this is the first time ever Joey and I have had the exact same score for a game.
Yeah, because my thought process is all about the coaching and how each team will take advantage of, the coaches will take advantage of the other two. Thought process is different. But we somehow came to the same score. I don't have it in double overtime. You do. But somehow ended up with completely different thought processes arriving at the same conclusion. So that should tell you something.
That should. Now, the 49ers had time of possession 31 minutes, 6 seconds in the regular season, but they only had time of possession for 30 minutes, 17 seconds in their final 3 regular season games. The Chiefs' time of possession was 30-37 on the year, but they had the ball for 31 minutes, 30 seconds in their final 3 regular season games, more than the 49ers. That is partially why Joey is big on the Chiefs in terms of the tempo. The Chiefs had the ball for 37 minutes, 30 seconds in the regular season finale against the Chargers. So that's the thing. And they improved their time of possession from 29:50 to 30:37. The 49ers' time of possession went down from 31:29 to 31:06. So the Panthers actually got worse in time. I mean, the 49ers got worse in time of possession. The Panthers improved their time of possession by 2.5 minutes, but finished with the exact same time of possession as the 49ers on the year. The exact same average for time of possession, which I think is amazing. That is an amazing stat, considering how bad the Panthers were. It's just like...
It is. Once again, I don't understand it. It defies logic. But this NFL season defies logic. So, why we consider the two best teams in the NFL ended up in the Super Bowl in a year where everything went haywire is also beyond me. Because guess what? Everything went haywire during the season. Yeah, everything comes together in a nice little package. How? I don't know. But it happened.
Yeah, and the Chiefs won their conference. They showed they were definitively the best team in the AFC in January. You can say the 49ers were the best team in January, but they played sloppy against the Packers. And if Dan Campbell didn't go for it, the Lions are in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs instead of the 49ers. Just saying. I'm not going to fault Dan Campbell for his stubbornness, but that's...
Dan Campbell has always been both condemned for and praised for is the fact that he doesn't take conventional wisdom into account when it comes to taking the points where it's going for, which allows for opposing head coaches to look at that and scheme around it. So I think the 49ers knew Campbell was going to go for it. So you can't really take away from the 49ers on that one because you kind of knew it was coming. I mean, I heard something about the Lions having the top fourth down. They went for more fourth down than anybody else in the NFL by far. I mean, that's something you can scheme around. That's just not an anomaly that happens. That's something they do as part of their strategy. So, and this has been in the ass. But sometimes the aggression works, sometimes it bites in the ass. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, and it's going to be an interesting offseason. But yeah, we've got the same score. We both have the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl 31-28. So what's coming up next week? Next week, we're going to recap the Super Bowl. I'll talk about some MLS roster updates. 29 of the 87 players in the 2024 Super Draft have signed contracts. That is 23 first-round picks, 4 second-round picks, and 1 third-round pick have secured MLS or MLS Next roster slots. The other players are still fighting for jobs, with the MLS regular season starting 2 weeks from today. And then February 24th, we will have a movie. We're going to have a movie Utopia episode. We're going to recap 4 movies in 1994, 30 years later. Because in 1994, you had Pulp Fiction, you had Lion King, you had Forrest Gump, you had Shawshank Redemption, all nominated for Oscars and Golden Globes. So we're going to recap those movies. We're going to have a podcast where we talk about movies instead of sports, just to be more relaxed. And then the Combine's after that. So I will have 4 live streams for each day of the Combine. Well, yeah, maybe I'll make the live streams like reactions, because I do want to watch the Combine and keep track of everything as well, because there's all the drills at the Combine. But yeah. And then we'll be on to March after that. I don't know what the schedule is like, but those are the next 3 episodes. The next Because, everybody who watches the Super Bowl says there's nothing exciting in sports happens until March Madness after the Super Bowl. That's not entirely true. You have the Combine, and then you have March Madness and NFL free agency sort of intertwining with each other. Those two things intertwine with each other. But I get it. As a fan of sports, NFL, college football, and March Madness are probably most casual sports fans' three favorite events of the year. So, and then after that, there's just not as much excitement until September. Even though I like the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs, those sports just don't generate the same traction as college football or the Super Bowl or March Madness. Those sports just generate more traction. That's the reality of the situation.
So let's say that March Madness hasn't really been much of anything over the last few years. So
because you have more players opting out. You have more players opting out of college basketball to go play professionally overseas where they'll get paid, whether it's G League Unite or a team in France or a team in Australia. And let's face it, outside of Alexander Sarr, Nikola Topic, and Zachary Risacher, my top three NBA prospects back in October who wowed me on film. Nobody else outside of those three and Ron Holland really wowed me. So there were like literally 4 players that wowed me on tape. Nobody else really wowed me. And they were all either G League Ignite or international players. So the 4 best players that wowed me in terms of talent were all international players. And look, 2025 is going to be better than 2024. The reason I know that is because, my friend Luis Estrada, he's a Texans fan. He said there could be as many as 8 blue chip players with Hall of Fame upside, 5 All-Stars, and 2 more day one starters. So that's the entire top 15 of the 2025 NBA draft. So that right there tells me that 2025 isn't just a deeper class than 2024. It's a much better class with Ace Bailey and Cooper Flagg competing to be the number 1 pick. Both of those guys would be number 1 in this year's draft if both were eligible. So the fact that teams aren't trading for 2025 picks and trading for 2024 picks kind of baffles me. But since the NBA draft is going to be a 2-day event now, it's like teams are only offering second-round picks for impact players because they know those picks are essentially worthless. And I don't like the NBA draft being a 2-day event. If you're going to make it a 2-day event, put something else in between to entertain the fans, okay? Have the day one picks offer fans autographs. Just add something of entertainment value, of sentimental value. Add a G League draft or add something to make the second day worth a damn. That's all I'm saying. You don't have to go in depth with it, but just add something. Because I know the NHL draft's a 2-day event, but like with the NHL, they do the first round, they do rounds 2 through 7. If you added a 3rd round, I could live with the NBA draft being a 2-day event. Because you got all these draft guys who work at Draft Express and NBA Draft Room who bust their ass posting a top 100 for the NBA each year. So give those guys their due, give those guys their glory, and make the draft 3 rounds. Like, the first round picks can be guaranteed NBA contracts.
You know what that problem is?
What is the problem with that?
There isn't that much of it. That's the problem. You know, if it was still the 80s and you had 32 teams, I would say, yeah, make it 3 rounds. For the 90s, I'd say, yeah, make it 3 rounds. But as we're sitting right now, hell no. They don't even have a half a round worth of talent that even comes close to even the 90s or early 2000s. And you want to make it 3 rounds? Oh, not a chance. Like, I don't even know 3/4 of the guys that come into the draft. Never even heard of them. Like, I make fun of their names because some of them just sound absolutely ridiculous. So, but yeah, there is nothing that points toward the NBA draft to be 3 rounds. caliber prospect. If that. And you want 3 rounds out of it? Hell no.
But the thing is, next year's NBA draft, you could have at least 15 day one starters. This draft, I think there's maybe 4 immediate impact players that check off every box as far as short range, mid range, long range, passing, dunking, blocking, stealing, rebounding. There's 4 players in the entire draft that check off every box, and then the rest of the draft is bad. You have 15 day one starters in 2025. 15 to start the draft. This year you only have 4. 2025 you have 15 day one starters, including 8 blue chip players atop the draft.
And that is pathetic. That's why I was covering the draft. You had 20-some to 30 day one starters. Food. Now it's like, yeah, we're so excited that 15, we get 20%, 25% of all drafted players are going to be day one starters. Wow. 15% to 25%. That is horrific. Absolutely horrific.
Well, I've got NBA Draft Room up. I'm going through the 2025 NBA mock player comps. Cooper Flag, their comparisons are Andrei Kirilenko and Scottie Pippen. One YouTuber at Draft Express compared Flag to Larry Bird, but I thought that was ridiculous. Ace Bailey, his player comp is Tracy McGrady. Dylan Harper, his player comp is James Harden. Jalen Green, is the player comp for Baylor's shooting guard / small forward. So the top 4 players look like they're going to be bona fide stars, perennial all-star players. There's no player comps for picks 5 through 14. There's a center that's compared to Antonio McDyess. Dame Sarr from Barcelona, Italy's comparisons Terrence Clark. The player compared to Brandon Ingram, Isaiah Evans at Duke is projected to go 18th. You got a player compared to Larry Hughes going 22nd. Kai Jones, Theo Ratliff, DeJounte Murray. So, I mean, 2025 looks a lot better than 2024. But I guess it just, the appeal.
And they look bad. So it's like, I remember covering the NBA draft when every first round pick averaged at least 19 points a game. And if you're a big man, you average 9 to 12 rebounds for a big man. I mean, Pinkers actually used to have to average 5 assists a game at the college game.
Yeah, according to Tankathon, every first round pick. According to Tankathon, every first-round pick averages is projected to average 12.3 points a game in the NBA. But I click on Alexander Sarr, the number 1 pick, and it shows me he's only played 17.8 minutes a game, and he's only averaged 9.3 points per game in those 17.8 minutes. But he's projected to average 18.8 points per game in 36 minutes. So the analytics are very misleading, Joey. The analytics are very misleading in the sense that, not just that, the analytics for the NBA draft are extremely misleading because they're taking the projections of what a player's going to do in 36 minutes per game, and half of the players haven't even played 36 minutes. So the projections are not realistic.
That's why I say, yeah, you should be like the NFL. You have to stay in school for 2 to 3 years after your high school graduating class, 3 years after your high school graduating class graduates. Why? Because, let's face it, these kids are too young. The overall, like, I keep going back to this. A couple years ago, when I was still watching the NBA, I went to the bar, looked at one screen, looked at the other screen. They're playing the exact same game. One was college, one was professional. I had to ask the bartender which one was the pro game, which one was the college game. because exact same game, exact same skill level, exact same everything, and then you couldn't tell me what it was. And that's the thing. That's why these kids need to stay in school. You give these kids, make them stay in school, make them grow up, make them hone their skills, and you can get back to that level that it was back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, the skill level, and you can elevate the game. But they aren't, and they're not going to do it.
I know that's the part that sucks.
The problem.
They're not going to make it like it used to be.
Because you're basically saying, hey, young guys, you don't have to do anything. Just play basketball for 6 months a year. We'll get you a high first-round grade, and you can go pro. It doesn't matter whether you succeed or not. You'll still get your first-round money. You'll still get your first-round contract. It's all right. And the bar is set so low. It's basically saying, hey, high school kids, you're going to get all this money based on projection, but you don't actually have to be incredible at your game. And that's mainly why I say LeBron James has been overrated, because he literally did not have to change his game from high school, because I watched him in high school quite a bit, for the first 14 years of his career. It was the same game, same skill level. He didn't have to get head and shoulders above everybody else. Now, is that a complaint against him? No. He didn't have to. That is a complaint against the NBA, because they do not hold their players to the same high standards that they used to. If they would have made the bar higher, LeBron James would have worked on his outside game before he hit 15 years in the league, and he would have been an astronomically better shooter, an astronomically better player.
Because one thing they voted on last year, were debating is to lower the age. They were debating lowering the age to enter the NBA draft from 19 to 18, so you could go to the NBA straight out of high school, but then they voted against it at the last minute. They voted against it. But
they're going to make the NBA unwatchable. It's like, you wonder why the NBA, the USA has lost to Europe as much as they have over the last couple of years in the Olympics and the Summer Games and so on and so forth. It's because it's not because the European talent just suddenly became astronomically better. Yes, they have been getting better, but not to the point where they should be able to beat the best players in the world. Oh, guess what? They're beating the best players in the world. Why? Because they're not the best players in the world anymore. The NBA players, I hate to tell you, I hate to break it to you, they're not the best players in the world anymore. They're not. And it's because in America, the NBA has set their standards so low that they can't beat Angola. They have trouble with Angola. The Green Team beat them by 80 points. And that's where we are with American basketball.
look, I get.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing as college. It's like, oh, you got a pistol? Fuck, get in there.
No, because one thing the MLS did well this year is the MLS allowed underclassmen to go back to college. So teams took underclassmen in the second and third round. They took players that were going to contribute to their team right out of the gate in the first round. So you don't have that with the NBA.
Oh, because that's something else. It's like, how many of these guys go into the NBA that find their position lacking, want to go back to college, but can't? How much would that improve the game if they were allowed to just say, you know what, I'm going back to college, then I'll come
Because
out.
the MLS is doing what the NBA did in the 80s. The MLS is doing what the NBA did in the 80s. And it's making the MLS better as a sport. Like, one of the third-round picks, Carson Hodgson, second to last pick in the MLS draft, MAC Player of the Year as a true freshman, MAC Freshman of the Year. He's still on CF Montreal. They haven't said, kid, you have 2 years of NCAA eligibility left. Go back to college. No, he's still on the Montreal roster. He hasn't been offered a contract, but he hasn't been dismissed from the team yet. They haven't said, go back to college. You've got 2 more years of eligibility. He's still competing for a roster spot. Second to last pick in the entire MLS draft. It's nuts. But hey, we're getting those stories in MLS. It's a good story. It's good for the sport.
And for all those people that are listening, they're like, what the hell does he know about basketball? I got a gold medal sitting on my desk chasing me how much I know about basketball. So, to anybody who questions that one. Because I covered basketball, played basketball, and long before I covered the NFL. Specifically the NBA draft. So, to anybody who's listening to question that, just because I don't talk about the NBA that often, doesn't mean I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And there's a reason I have strong opinions on it.
Yep. So, that's what's going to be interesting. I mean, MLB, you can turn pro at age 18, but you're in the minor leagues for 3 years, or you're in college for 2 years. That's the thing. If you go pro in the MLB at the age of 18, you're either in the minor leagues for 3 years or you're in college for 2 years. It used to be you're in college for 3 years. They changed the rules so now you're only in college for 2 years. But, that has made Major League Baseball better.
The MLS is doing essentially what the NBA used to do. That they're doing the exact same thing that made the NBA great to begin with. And when the NBA steers from that, that's when their decline starts. The MLS is doing what made the NBA great to begin with. That the thing that orchestrated their golden age. The MLS is doing that. So why can't the NBA do that? Because the NBA doesn't want to do that. They know that much. They're making the project billionaire mistake of holding on to money instead of making them. The MLS is like, oh, they made a lot of money doing this. They made a lot of stars doing this.
And look, Don Garber's probably the best commissioner of the 5 commissioners in pro sports. You have Goodell, Gary Bettman, Rob Manfred, Adam Silver, Don Garber. Don Garber worked under Paul Tagliabue and Roger Goodell prior to the inception of the NFL. So he's been able to take what he's learned from those two and bring it over to Major League Soccer. So, and he's still the commissioner after the sport was founded.
Gary Bettman has done an amazing job.
Yes.
Let's not do him. He has done an amazing job.
Yeah. But I think Garber's done a better job with the MLS. I think Bettman's done a great job too. I'm not knocking Bettman. I just think Garber's done the best of the 5 commissioners. That's just my opinion.
I think the worst commissioner if we're looking at commissioner-wise, the worst commissioner in today's professional sports has to be Adam Silver.
I'd go Rob Manfred, but I think it's clear, but it's a clear-cut race between Rob Manfred of MLB and Adam Silver of the NBA. Those are the clear 2 worst commissioners. It's not even a debate, Joey. Those are the bottom 2. And then you can make your argument for Garber, Goodell, or Gary Bettman, depending on who you like the best.
Yeah, those are the 2 I was thinking of as the best. And then Roger Goodell's somewhere in the middle. Goodell's in the position where, oh my God, we got it perfect. Do not screw it up. If we screw this up, we are fucked. Do not screw it up. And Goodell's in the middle of, let's make everybody happy. Do not screw this up. Do not screw this up. Do not screw this up. And then you have MLS who's going up. You have the NHL that's going up. You have the NBA that's tanking. And then you have baseball that's been on the decline for 25 years, yet somehow they're like the little engine that could. They just keep hustling along. That they're still, declining as they always were, just at a slower pace. So I'm not sure how that works. So as far as commissioners go, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
But clear sign, the ones that are trying to enhance their talent and trying to enhance their reach globally and become bigger, become more successful, become more talented, and reach more people, those are the commissioners that are on top. The ones that's there are 3 to 5. There's a stark competition on who's going to stay out of that 5 position between Major League Baseball and India.
Yeah, because I think I like Bud Selig. I like Bud Selig, but he was behind his time. Like, he needed to step down. I didn't think Bud Selig was a horrible commissioner, but it got to the point where he needed to step down. And Manfred's just been worse than Selig. I can't believe I'm saying that. And the same could be said with Adam Silver and David Stern.
I love Bud Selig. Bud Selig was great for his time. Bud Selig just held on way too freaking long.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
When he came up, he just held on way too long. He should have bowed out earlier than he did. And if he would have, maybe we would have talked differently. But it's basically, now you got Bud Selig's life, when Bud Selig was hanging on too long. So, what does that mean for Major League Baseball? So, talk about the NBA and what their finagling does and how bad they become. What does having Bud Selig's life actually do for Major League Baseball? And is there any way to pull themselves out of the hole? I know they tried in the last couple of years. They put in some things that I'm in favor of, like the pitch count clock and everything. I've been to a couple games. Didn't even implement that.
I did not like the pitch count clock at first, but it's here to stay, unfortunately.
Well, it was needed.
It was.
How many times did I sit there for 3 minutes waiting on a pitch because I time, or I got to run my clock, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. And it's like, dude, just shut up and throw the ball. You can set up and pitch the ball within 35 seconds. You can do it. It's possible. You can make a decision in 35 seconds.
Yep.
They were posturing too much. And it was causing 5, 6, 7 hour games. You didn't just sit around for 5, 6, 7 hours and watch a baseball game. That helped because it kept the action going. One of the reasons I love softball. It's rapid fire, high speed. They don't need to think about it. Just put their ass up, they get the ball, they pitch the ball, they get the ball, they go. It's high octane, it's high energy. That's what Major League Baseball has to continue to try to do. It's that high energy spirit. They made small steps forward, but I think this is where Manfred starts. He's going to go small baby steps towards the positive outcome that he wants, but he's not willing to take the big home run shot. And as long as you're not willing to take that shot to really get where you're going to be, that's what that Steelers said. Incremental progress. Small, baby step progress. And then you have these other leagues that are NHL, Major League Soccer, that are making these huge leaps to get where they want to be. Baseball sitting there like small, incremental steps.
I hope the NHL stays at 32 teams, Joey. I do. I hope the NHL stays at 32 teams, but I've heard rumors they are going to go to 36. They're going to add 4 more teams, and there will be 4 divisions of 9 teams, which means I'd have to recode the NHL sections of my site because.
And not only that, but you're looking at the NHL starting to really hit off the stars. Players people know, they're not quite at the point of the casual person who sits down and watches the game and says, oh, that's whoever on the NHL level.
That's Crosby, that's Connor McDavid, yeah. They're getting to that point. They're not there.
They're getting to that. My fear is that if they expand, now they're going to.
Because they got lucky with Vegas and Seattle. They made two excellent business decisions by expanding to Las Vegas and Seattle. Two excellent business decisions.
Yeah.
And now they want to try to make money off of that, make more money off of that, because they think they are guaranteed the same result if they go to Houston or Salt Lake City, Utah, or Atlanta. Atlanta's failed 2 times. They failed as the Atlanta Flames. They failed at the Atlanta Thrashers, had to relocate on both occasions to Calgary and Winnipeg. I would not give Atlanta a team.
Yeah, it's like football, the casual NBA thing before I became big within the NBA. It's like I knew some casual names that other people didn't simply because, hey, they had gotten big enough. Why not? Like, hey, that's just beat me. Number 43 on the Boston Celtics. He's like 9th on the depth chart. And that's because I knew him at the college game. I knew him going through. And
yeah, if the NHL goes to 36 teams, you're going to have 36 players drafted in the first round. You're going to get to the point where second-round guys get pushed into round 1, where undrafted players get pushed into round 7, and that saturates your product. That's not good for the sport.
Yeah, because and sooner or later you get to the NBA where guys that would have gone undrafted in 1999 are now first-round prospects. And once you get to that point, that's when you go straight down to Adam Silver level of incompetence. Okay. So once you get to that point, now you're in trouble. My fear with the expansion is it's going to do that eventually. And undrafted guys are going to be picked into the first round. And that's going to be a problem. Because remember, hockey is huge all around the world. Oh, undrafted guys get put down in the first round if you team with me.
I mean, you have 7 rounds in hockey. 7 rounds in hockey. It used to be 210 picks. Now it's a 224. 32 picks, 7 rounds. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Don't expand it. I get your point, but if you expand it to 36, you're going to have second-round guys in the first round. It's bad for the sport. I don't want the league to go to 36 teams.
Undrafted guys down in the third round or whatever, if you get to that point, you're done. I mean, it's over. You're going to have to completely revamp how you do things if you allow it to get to that point. And
it's perfect the way it is. Don't broke.
They got back when they started expanding to 30 teams. Once they got to 30 teams, that's when you do.
Well, this is the thing. NFL is 32 teams. NHL is 32 teams. Every other league wants to get to 32 teams except for MLS. MLS is going to go to 30 next year, and then they're going to stop expansion, which is good. I can respect Don Garber for that decision. Because
when you get to too many teams, now you're delivering your product. And not only are you delivering your product, they're saying, we don't have to work hard. We can make them adjust to us. We can make them adjust to us rather than us adjusting to it, which further dilutes the product. And it's just a big circle of mess. You don't want to dilute your product. You want to stay at a high peak level. And you want to make sure you have the best talent being showcased every single night. And you want to be able to make sure you can weed out the talent that's not the peak talent. So if you dilute your product too much, you can't do that. You will eventually lose control over your product. Baseball lost control of its product. Basketball lost control of its product. Rapid expansion is part of it.
Look, the NHL is perfect the way it is. If the NBA wants to expand to Seattle and Las Vegas and stop at 32, fine. I don't like it, but I can live with it. I don't like the NBA at 32 teams, but I can live with it. Baseball is probably going to go to 32 as well. Well, there's 30 NBA teams now.
29 teams for a country this size is perfect.
Well, there's 30. There's 30 NBA teams now. There's not 29. There's 30. They're going to go to 32. Only because of Seattle and Las Vegas. Seattle and Las Vegas are both huge markets that don't have NBA teams. So they're probably going to get them NBA teams, and then they'll stop at 32. MLB is looking at potentially going to 32 teams as well, but they're waiting on the relocation plans. NHL might expand to 36, but they're waiting to see what the Coyotes do. The Coyotes might relocate. The whole expansion thing is waiting on that.
The perfect number for NBA teams was 28.
It's now at 30.
27, 28. And it's now at 30. That's 24 players that shouldn't be on a roster that are. The perfect number for the NFL, you do not move from where you are if you're in the NFL. You keep your butt right where you are.
Same with NHL. Same with NHL. You're at 32. NHL's at 32. NFL's at 32. You stay where you're at. You don't expand. You stay where you're at.
Because the NFL and the NHL are at their all-time peak in popularity right now. Stay where you are.
Look, if the NFL went to 40 teams, would the league make more money? Yes, but they would saturate their product in the process.
Yeah, it'd be a far worse problem.
Yes.
And eventually they would make less money. Right now the NBA was at such a high point, they're still riding off the high. And if you actually watch it, they're not going to be very high much longer if they don't make drastic improvements. Baseball, they're not their high for a long time. They ain't running off their highs anymore, guys. Baseball has declined sharply. And they don't know how to pull it off because they've been chilling for 100 years.
Yeah, and we both have the Chiefs winning 31-28. If you're still on the live stream with us, it's 11:57. I've been working on a Romo Dunes film cut through iMovie on my other computer. So if you haven't seen my face on the live stream, I've been going in and out, multitasking, listening to Joey, working on my film cut for YouTube. I did upload 2 more film cuts to YouTube this morning. JT Bertrand out of Notre Dame and Dwayne Carter, the Duke defensive tackle. And Dwayne Carter's very versatile. He can line up an edge rusher. He can drop back into coverage, can stop the run. Great athleticism. Had a good Senior Bowl week. But he got pancaked like 5 or 6 times by Notre Dame's offensive line. There were at least 5 or 6 plays, maybe 7, where Notre Dame's offensive line knocked Dwayne Carter on his ass. So it's easy to see why he's a day 3 pick. I can see why people are arguing he should go in the 3rd round. But I think he's more of a day 3 pick at this point. He did have a good Senior Bowl week. But do you take a guy who got pancaked 5 or 6 times in the 3rd round of a draft? You don't take him in the first 2 rounds of the draft, even if he has the athletic traits you covet. Because you are getting somewhat of a project. You're not getting a massive project, but you are getting somewhat of a project. So you got to be aware of that.
Now my throat hurts. Now I need a walk. Are you good?
Yeah, I'm here, Joey.
I blame you for that. Yeah, I blame you because now I need a sausage. You didn't cut me off. You let me rant. You let me yell. You let people look stupid at me. Now my throat hurts.
I've had a sore throat cold for 10 days. Okay? I've had a cold since last Wednesday. I first started having symptoms of a cold. Sore throat, runny nose. It's not been pleasant. Believe me. I can sympathize with you. It has not been a pleasant experience for me. I mean, we pretty much covered our talking points, the Super Bowl. If you want to end the podcast now, I'm cool with that because we pretty much covered what we want to cover. We told people what we're going to do next week with the Super Bowl recap, MLS roster updates, And then 2 weeks from now, we'll talk about some movies. And then the combine's 3 weeks from now. So it's like, we've pretty much got everything taken care of. We don't have to keep going. It's 11:59. I kind of feel like stopping.
Here's the thing, guys. We gave you what you needed with the Super Bowl. We gave you what you wanted. As the guys on OSW review would say, we gave you a little bit of Gucci bonus coverage here with some of the other things and the commissioners and the oversaturation of product and the reason things aren't working as well as they should. We gave you guys a lot of stuff. Some of it you were thinking of, some of it you weren't. We gave you some Gucci bonus coverage today.
Yep.
So, is there really anything left on
There really isn't. This was supposed to be a Super Bowl only show, but we wanted to come up with some other topics to kill some time, and these were not topics I had planned. This was supposed to be a Super Bowl only show, and then we sign off, we preview next week's show. We gave you some bonus topics because we wanted to give you at least 10 to noon, 2 hours. It's noon now, so yeah. The Utopia of Sports will be back next week to recap the Super Bowl and to talk about some MLS roster updates. College baseball also starts next Friday, so the college baseball season begins next Friday as well. So it's time to pivot away from the NFL and start pivoting into the MLS draft and the college baseball players eligible for the 2024 MLB draft, the next cycle of the scouting season. And look, there's still time to scout NFL players. That's probably what Joey's going to be doing for the next 2 months once the football season ends.
Yeah, it's like I've dabbled into it a little bit. I've been doing all this other stuff, and I've got other things going on. But now, we don't have all this other stuff going on. So, yeah, it's NFL. We are rolling into NFL draft season. We did the Senior Bowl last year. It has started. We're looking at we already did the East West Triangle. We are looking at
Combine's 2 weeks from today. I haven't even set up the code for the Combine yet. I'm not sure I want to because I could work on film cuts, and some people might rather watch film cuts than our read our Combine webpage. I'm looking at what's going to get me the most views. And if more people are going to watch our YouTube channel than the Combine, I mean, I'll probably still do the Combine stuff, but it's like if more people watched our YouTube channel than the Combine.
Check out Draft Utopia on YouTube and on Rumble because we got some good stuff on there.
Yep. JT Bertrand and Dwayne Carter. I just finished the Notre Dame Duke film cuts. So I have 5 games through. It's the first month of the college football season. And now I'm rotating between Oklahoma versus Texas, the Red River Shootout, and the first Oregon-Washington game. I'm going to start with the receivers from the Oregon-Washington game because I've been getting a lot of requests for Romo Dunes, the guy who Jeremiah has ahead of Malik Neighbor, Troy Franklin, the Oregon receiver. I have been getting a lot of requests for those two, so I'm going to do those two. Then I'll do the Oklahoma-Texas film and then try to create a playlist. So yeah, you can check that out on YouTube. We have every game up on Rumble. We got a lot of conference title games up on Rumble. A lot of conference title games. Every conference title game we could find on YouTube, we found the video file. We put that on Rumble. So all of that's there. So you can entertain yourselves with draft season coming up, and it's going to be an interesting. This one Washington fan has a freaking puppet doll, like a vampire or a Chucky doll or something. I don't know what the hell it is. It's like, I'm trying to figure out what, okay, it's a voodoo doll. It's a freaking voodoo doll. This one Washington fan brought a freaking voodoo doll with roses on it to the football game against Oregon. I'm surprised that security allowed the voodoo doll into the stadium. It looks very freaky. It looks like a consultant for Chucky the doll. You know, Chucky the doll from the 1980s horror movies is like, how did that thing get past security?
It's hard to tell. Sorry, there's no meddling. That's my only thought process.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to finish this Romo Dunes film cut. We're going to get ready for the Super Bowl. I will have a Super Bowl Google Hangout with my friend Ben tomorrow if you want to come watch the Super Bowl live stream with us. And if not, you can just watch the game on your televisions, and we'll talk about the Super Bowl next week. But I am going to sign off.
Guys, remember, check into Rumble and YouTube. Hit the like and subscribe button on both.
We are 13 subscribers away from 500, and once I get to 500, I'm going to do a giveaway, a 2024 draft trading card giveaway, first ever giveaway in the history of Draft Utopia. I'm not sure how it'll work. I'm guessing we would have people want to buy cards off us. They'd have to pay. I'd have to bring in a trading card consultant for prices on each of the cards. But I'm not opposed to doing that if we get to 500 subscribers, because we're 13 away from monetization on YouTube. So I'd really appreciate getting to 500 as soon as possible. But hey, thank you to everybody who subscribed to the channel this week. That's Joseph Potter. I'm Chris Ransom. We're signing off. Enjoy your Saturday afternoons.